This just in as of yesterday. Mark Laita from Soft White Underbelly is trying yet again to let one of his friends take one of his subjects under their care. I don't actually know if the guy's his friend, but you'll see why I said that in a minute. Now, this is particularly alarming because the last time that I know of that this happened was with Lima Yevremovich. She had a company called Aura, which took under her care one of Mark Laita's subjects. That subject was also a fan favorite. Her name was Amanda Rabb. Well, unfortunately, as y'all probably know by now, Amanda Rabb did not survive for long enough to get through that treatment.
The treatment center staff walked into Amanda's room thinking that she was just peacefully sleeping and realized that she had passed away.
Now, Lima herself has also expressed interest in trying to work with Rebecca, and also it kind of seems like Lima actually did work with Rebecca based on some things that she did say in September 2022 on Soft White Underbelly.
It's a shame because you're helping people like Chris, the schizophrenic young man that I interviewed.
Yeah.
And whether you want to find somebody else from my channel that you wanted to help, Rebecca would be a good.
Yeah, Rebecca has a very close place in my heart, and I think.
And Bam Margera as well.
Yeah.
Now, there's a bunch of twists and turns that I could take with this video. It could be a very long video, but I'm just going to try and do a little dip the toe in the waters because I have a lot of other stuff that I need to be looking into right now. So I am not going to be able to cover everything. I'm not going to be able to even cover most of the stuff that I see as important here. I'm going to try to get through it quickly, but I am very concerned about Rebecca. The reason I'm concerned about Rebecca is it seems like Mark Laita is just trying to pass Rebecca off as a advertising opportunity to all of his friends. This is why I say that. First of all, he tried already to let Lima treat Rebecca, as we just discussed. And now we have some more information as of yesterday, where Mark Laita uploaded a video, and in this video, we're going to watch a portion of it together. In this video, Mark Laita suggests to Rebecca that Rebecca allow this Owen person to perform some type of TMS therapy or treatment on Rebecca. I am not a TMS therapy expert, and I really don't want to get into it today. I have some other things that I want to discuss, but I just want to make it clear. I don't know anything about this TMS therapy. Maybe it works, maybe it don't. If Rebecca wants to do that and is consenting to it, I don't know. I don't know anything about it. It might be very helpful. That's not the purpose of today's video. It's nothing about no TMS therapy. Purpose of today's video is about the actual person, the people, the practitioners who are to be administering this potential therapy on Rebecca and who have administered it on others. And I'm not going to hide the ball anymore. They have a lot in common with Lima Yevremovich. And the most alarming thing that I found for them to have had in common with Lima Yevremovich is that they too have had a patient already die in their care. Let's get into the video. So I want to give a shout out to Hannah on Instagram for bringing this to my attention. I was actually in the air yesterday flying whenever she was sending me this information, and she was very worried about Rebecca, which now I understand why. As you can see, one day ago, the Soft White Underbelly channel uploaded this video. The human oil slick has returned, Rebecca, which came as a surprise to me because look what Mark posted just 2 months ago, Rebecca's final interview. So you would assume that would have been Rebecca's final interview, but no. We have one just yesterday. The human oil slick has returned, Rebecca. Now, as you can see, it is an hour long, 58 minutes, 29 seconds. We're absolutely not watching that whole video, but there is a small portion that I did want to watch with y'all. So let me bring that up. So this is about 23 minutes into the video, and Mark and Rebecca are talking about the new hairstyle that Rebecca has. So listen to what they say.
I hate the shape of my head. I want cheekbone implants and lip filler. And
okay, so Rebecca starts talking about cosmetic procedures, right? A cosmetic procedure. This is not healthcare, certainly not mental health care procedures or anything like that. Rebecca said, I want lip filler and, I guess Botox or whatever.
I have white lines. Look at my white lines. Look at my frown lines.
Do you want to try TMS?
And Mark immediately, completely unrelatedly, says, do you want to try TMS? Again, the TMS procedure and all of that is not the purpose of today's video. It is actually, unlike Lima's Aura, it's actually FDA approved for certain things like treating OCD and things like that. It seems to be a little bit similar to electroconvulsive therapy. It sends magnetic wave fields into the brain in order to control the patient's mood. I am in absolutely no way an expert. please do not take anything that I say in this video as an endorsement of this type of procedure or as a criticism. My criticism comes from the fact that it already seems very obvious that Mark Laita is trying to shill out this treatment onto Rebecca, and Rebecca is not talking about that. Rebecca said, I want lip fillers and Botox or whatever. And Mark's like, you want to try this electromagnetic brain thing that controls your mood?
TMS.
The
Rebecca says, what's TMS?
transcranial magnetic stimulation.
Okay, so let me tell. So
You talked about this with Owen on the phone. You had a conversation.
Okay. We talked about this with Owen on the phone. Well, wouldn't you know, Owen and his wife, who's his partner in psychiatry, were on Mark Laita's channel just 4 months ago advertising their services. Isn't that interesting? Let's watch the rest of this short clip of Rebecca, and then we're going to get into Owen. But we have Mark Laita saying here to Rebecca, Rebecca's like, oh, I want lip filler, which is not a mental health treatment. Like, I mean, I guess it could be if you got such small lips that it's causing you some type of trauma, but girl, that's not what's going on here. It's a cosmetic procedure. Look at the forehead lines. I don't like the forehead lines. And Mark immediately jumps. It's almost like he was waiting. He was just waiting for something that could be possibly segued. Because my question is just overarchingly, why did Mark have Rebecca back on his channel? We saw Rebecca 2 months ago, final interview. Okay, so why is Rebecca back here now? So that's kind of like the overarching question on my mind. Why? Why did you even make a video that said Rebecca's final interview then? So that kind of has my wheels turning. And then immediately, as soon as Mark feels like he has the opportunity to relate this TMS to anything at all, this guy he's already had on his channel 4 months ago with the TMS stuff. Again, we're going to get into Owen in a minute, Dr. Owen. But it kind of just seems like, in my opinion, I mean, girl, I was not there, innocent until proven guilty. But it seems like, in my opinion, that Mark was waiting for an opportunity to try and on camera, because if they do this stuff out in front of our faces, then maybe they will get in less trouble. Nobody's gotten in any kind of trouble for the Amanda Rabb story. Nobody's faced any accountability. There hasn't really been any investigation to my knowledge. I mean, maybe there is, girl. Maybe they're just not telling all of us about it. Maybe somebody's about to get arrested. I mean, I really don't know. But it just kind of seems like he was waiting for the opportunity to shill this crap that his friend is doing. Again, I shouldn't call it crap because I really don't know. It might work really well, but just listen further.
Conference call, remember?
Mark, if we're gonna go to New York,
And so Mark's like, oh yeah, remember we talked to Owen on the conference call? And Rebecca's like, Mark, if we're going to New York, because this Owen guy's based in New York.
No, he's coming here.
$50,000?
He's going to come
you
here.
can hear me. I was gonna come here.
He's going to come here for you.
I'm gonna play along. Why? I want something attached to the price tag of $50,000, and you haven't subsidized $50,000 towards me to hold against you for the rest of your life. Why?
Rebecca knows what's up. Rebecca knows what's up. Rebecca's basically like, what's in it for me? Because it needs to be to the tune of $50,000. Now, why is this $50,000 amount coming up? You'll see.
Why? Told you.
I don't understand what you're saying.
He said it was $50K, right?
It was
or
what?
$10K? How much are we gonna pay him?
We'll figure it out. I'll pay for it.
Yeah, but he said like $50K, right?
So Rebecca's saying that when they were on this conference call all together with Dr. Owen, that Dr. Owen said that this was a $50,000 procedure. Well, how on earth could they possibly think that Rebecca could afford $50,000? That's my question.
No, but he's going to do it for
He
cheaper.
said $50,000. I was gonna do it for free.
Mark said he's going to do it for cheaper. Rebecca said, oh, he's going to do it for free. I don't know if it's cheaper or it's free.
Do I tell you what math makes me do for some reason?
What?
All I do is sing a cappella.
So then Rebecca says, can I tell you what METH makes me do? It makes me sing a cappella.
To myself. Like I'm putting on a show to people.
Yeah.
And people like, they respond to it in a really weird way. They'd be like, wow, you're dancing. So they have like a dancing
You're probably
goddess.
having more fun than these people.
Well, I know I am, but I'm just having
they
fun
ever
on my
have.
own, you know?
You're having more fun every night than these people
I'm
have in their
just
whole
dancing
year.
in my own little world. I'm like Alice in Wonderland. There's a strip mall.
You're the crazy court jester.
Crazy court jester. Mm-hmm. Well, you know, someone told me something, right? I was in New Orleans that I really
All roads leads to clowns. And now Rebecca's talking about being in New Orleans. I'm going to tell you what, Mardi Gras is mostly clowns.
relate to. The court jester. In a court in a court, right? It's equated to the king. Why?
Okay, so this is, like I said, around the 23-minute mark. Right now, where I just paused, it's 25 minutes. Let me fast forward to around the 42-minute mark because they discussed this TMS thing one more time.
It's like $1 trillion industry. Like what do I do with $1 trillion? I don't know.
Okay, So we're at 42 minutes, 19 seconds into the video. It's talking about every house is a toilet, something about garbage, something. Garbage is $1 trillion industry. Again, nothing at all to do with TMS, but Mark Laita seems like he wants to bring it up again because maybe he needed to make some more points or something. Again, I just want y'all to keep asking yourself why it is 2 months ago we were told this was Rebecca's last interview and now Rebecca's back and Mark Laita keeps bringing up completely out of context his seemingly, in my opinion, I think his friend, Owen.
I know this is my stuff.
I think TMS is the answer for you.
What? Rebecca's talking about Kim Kardashian and Skims and $1 trillion toilet industry, and now Mark thinks, in his completely non-medical opinion, he thinks TMS, a $50,000 procedure, is the answer for Rebecca. Again, maybe it is. Maybe it is. I don't know. But it just seems very coming from a biased place.
TMS is the answer. I'm just going to agree with it. Hello, my name is Behavioral Modification. Thank you, computer, for enabling behavioral modification.
You know what's funny is this.
Thank you, computer, for enabling behavior modification. What does a computer have to do with anything? Rebecca definitely knows what's going on here. I mean, maybe Rebecca's on drugs, but that is not taking away the fact that Rebecca definitely knows what's going on. Both times Mark has brought up this TMS thing, Rebecca's like, oh yeah, whatever you want me to say. Where's my money though? Am I going to be compensated? Rebecca knows that this is advertising. Rebecca knows, and I know it too, in my opinion. Y'all can make up your own opinion. I'm not privy to any information that y'all aren't, but
Personality that you have right now matches the
Mark,
personality you had when you had the same haircut. So it's almost like the haircut controls your personality.
It's me on a Tuesday.
oh, isn't that interesting? It's almost like Mark is trying to encourage a dissociative episode by encouraging this neurolinguistic programming of whatever alter you're dressed as is the one that's going to be fronting. Almost. I mean, that's just what it seems like to me. I don't know anything. I am just a girl on the internet.
This is the same personality you had last time you got your head shaved.
Trauma mind control.
Yeah, I know. It's almost like the haircut.
It's almost like I'm being controlled.
You're being controlled by your haircut.
I'm controlled by my haircut. Well, that's how it works. Trauma mind control. You know about mind control, Mark? When you shave your hair off, you're being reprogrammed. When you shave all your hair off, like in the trauma mind control program, in Project MK Ultra, CIA, you shave all your hair off, you are literally rendered an
Who's going to be our president this fall?
Huh?
Who's going to be our president this fall?
Well, he changed that subject really quick, didn't he?
I'm on the fucking Trump DeSantis ticket.
Okay. All right. So yeah, interesting that Mark wanted to bring up TMS. I'm sure there's some other interesting stuff going on in there. So Mark mentions this conference call with Owen, whoever that is. Let me just show y'all this real quick. This is the video he posted 4 months ago. So as you can see here, it says a talk on new depression treatments, Carlene McMillan and Owen Muir. It is another 58-minute long video, and it's these two people who are a husband and wife team who talk to Mark about some new depression treatments. Now, this is very much so an advertisement, whether they paid for the spot or not, whether they meant for it to be or not. Mark Laita's channel has 5.51 million subscribers, and the video has been viewed 71,000 times. Well, I guess they, didn't get enough attention from that, and now they need, to experiment on Rebecca. I shouldn't say experiment because it does look like this is actually FDA approved for at least some things. I don't know what, if anything, Rebecca has been diagnosed with. If I had to venture to wager, I would say probably some form of substance use disorder would certainly be something diagnosis. But girl, I am not a doctor, okay? I'm certainly not a psychiatrist. I don't know how this industry even really fully works. So don't take my word for anything. I'm just a girl on the internet giving my opinion. But the point is, here's these people, right? Owen Muir. And I'm like, all right, who's this guy? And I start Googling him. Now, one thing I will say is M-U-I-R. I've heard this name Owen Muir before. Sometime recently, this name has come up in my research and I literally just cannot remember where, but I was talking to Haley again on Instagram. Thank you so much for bringing this to my attention because I would not have paid attention. I am literally ignoring Rebecca stuff because I feel like it's just bait. I feel like it's bait all the time. But 4 months ago, here these people are on Mark Laita's channel talking about TMS. They do talk about TMS in here. And like I said, this video is already going to be way too long. I can go into the actual TMS treatment research if y'all want me to. Leave a comment below if you want me to really go into that. I am not going into that today. But then I just kind of start Googling this man, okay? And one of the first things that shows up if you Google this man is an article with the following title: Malpractice Against Dr. Owen Muir. And it's just a blog. I said article, but it's actually just a blog. And it's by someone named Mona Daniela. And this was from literally 2 months ago, March 31st. And as you can see, just on this kind of like crawler preview, it says Dr. Owen Scott Muir allegedly had bleep with patients and allegedly sent them pictures of people he tied up while having BDSM relations. And I'm like, whoa, hold on. You talking about this guy? Surely you're not talking about this Owen Muir, MD. Like, surely you don't mean him, right? Again, this is just a blog, okay? I don't know what the veracity of these statements are, but let me see. Okay. Wow, this is interesting. Okay, so this is from last year, last January. New bombshell allegations about Dr. Carleen McMillan, Dr. Owen Scott Muir, third name change in around a year, alleged violent sex relations with patients, alleged HIPAA laws violations. We continue to receive texts and emails from alleged former patients and alleged former employees of these two. We're talking about these two. This month is particularly hard because on January 11th, it was Mona Daniela's birthday. She would have been 33. Had she been alive. The allegations are shocking. Dr. Owen Scott Muir allegedly had relations with patients and allegedly sent them pictures of people tied up while having BDSM relations. He allegedly told a patient that he met his wife at a oh my gosh, SM party. Now, these are all allegations from anonymous sources sending this to a blog. This could be all false. I'm not trying to say this is true. I'm just telling y'all what my investigation led me to. And eventually, it led me to a lawsuit, which has allegations under penalty of perjury. And this lawsuit is still ongoing. Having to do not only with the wrongful death of a patient, but some other stuff is in July. So it's very much still ongoing, this lawsuit. Again, innocent until proven guilty. It's not a criminal case. He has not been charged with any crimes to my knowledge. This is just the blog post. And these people are saying that they allegedly got these anonymous tips. He told a patient that he met his wife at a BDSM party, which, I mean, if they're friends with Mark Laita or in Mark Laita's circle, I could imagine that is how they met. I could imagine. Allegedly, his wife, that's the lady, knows her husband is allegedly having relations with patients. Former employees allege she has 3 boyfriends. One former patient confirmed the allegation. How would a patient know so much about the private lives of their therapists if they had not told them? We know they wrote plenty about their private lives to our late daughter. It would not shock us, but it would surprise us if they allegedly continued the same pattern of behavior. We live in America. This is a free country. We have no prejudice. This couple are free to do whatever they want with their lives. They want an open marriage. It's their right, but it's not their right to harm patients. So this is the mother of someone who literally died while under the care of these doctors. It becomes a huge problem when they demolish the boundaries like they did with our daughter and like they allegedly did with other patients. It's a HIPAA violation to speak about patients to other people. Dr. Scott Muir told patients about the patients who completed their unaliving attempts. I go to a therapist. My therapist has never mentioned a word about any of her other patients. We have met with a great number of therapists, forensic psychiatrists. None of them ever mention a single word about their patients. And allegedly, there were 10 unalivings under their care in a period of 2 years. Now, this is clearly a biased blog because the person writing the blog, her daughter did die. And she does blame Owen and his wife for the death. Now, before we get into that lawsuit, there's one more thing I want to show y'all. So this is Dr. Owen Muir's Substack. So here it is here. And it was written, I don't know, I think a couple years ago, and it's entitled An Open Letter to United Health Group After Declining My Employment Application, as inspired by Rage Against the Machine live at Madison Square Garden. Okay, so he was mad at United Healthcare Group for not hiring him for a job or something, but there's one thing he said in here that I want to show y'all. And he references a lawsuit. He says, I have been accused, along with my wife, of R word and unaliving in a mendacious lawsuit in which deeply unscrupulous lawyers exploited the grief of a parent who lost a child to unaliving after literally thousands of attempts that we, as a patient, family, and physicians, went through together, only to have it dismissed with prejudice. Okay, so he's talking about the lawsuit here, right? He's saying we were accused of R word and murder. And in the lawsuit, it was really all these lawyers who were basically looking for a paycheck. And he says, but it's been dismissed with prejudice. And then he has this little footnote. Okay, what's the footnote say? You go to the bottom and it says, a dismissal with prejudice means that the ruling is the final judgment in the case. The dismissal prohibits the prosecutor from refiling the charges. Well, it's not a prosecutor, it's a civil case. In a dismissal without prejudice, the prosecutor can refile the charges or file new charges, without prejudice. So he says in this Substack article that he himself wrote, this lawsuit was mendacious. It was filed by unscrupulous lawyers who were basically just trying to get a quick money grab. They were taking advantage of this patient's mother, and it was dismissed with prejudice. He even goes on to define that means it's final. He is implying here that the case is dismissed. It's misleading at the very least. Let me show you what I mean. Here we are on the New York Courts Unified System website, and as you can see, this is the case. Esther Haddad versus Owen Muir and others. The next appearance date, as you can see, is July 8th, 2024. And what is the status of the case? Active. So what could that be about? Well, let's see. Look at what was filed literally earlier this month. Here is what is called a decision and order, and has to do with a stipulation. And look what it says right here. Just to remind y'all, he said in that Substack that was a mendacious lawsuit. Unscrupulous lawyers were taking advantage of a grieving mother. It was dismissed with prejudice, and that's the final order. Okay, well, girl, what does this filing say in the lawsuit from literally May 1st? Y'all see that? May 1st, 2024. See that up there? Okay. Defendants, Owen Muir, that's him, Owen. And his wife, that's her, the one he allegedly met at a BDSM party, girl. I don't know if that's true. A freak off in a hotel, maybe? I don't know. Brooklyn Mind Psychiatry move for an order to restore this action to active status, to remove the disposed designation from the court records, and to determine the outstanding branch of the movement's prior motion, which were remitted by the appellate division. And then it says the parties are supposed to appear in a New York court for oral arguments on July 8th, 2024 to address the outstanding branch of the motion. Okay, so basically, long story short of what has happened in the case was that the mother of a patient who died in their care, she sued. And we're going to get into some of the factual details of that case in just a moment. But the mother sued these two doctors, these two that are on Mark Laita's channel, trying now to discount or maybe give for free a $50,000 TMS service to Rebecca, who was supposed to be done on Mark Laita's channel. But here Rebecca is back and talking about, yeah, what do I get out of it? Like, very obviously aware that this is an advertisement. And so they got sued back in 2019 for, among other things, wrongful death. It was like wrongful death, pain and suffering, like a bunch of stuff, right? Well, on some of the stuff they sued for, specifically wrongful death, the statute of limitations had expired. So Owen and his wife and them, they moved to dismiss the case. Well, when they moved to dismiss the case, they only basically argued about the wrongful death situation part of it. So there was other things that needed to be addressed that they did not address. And so it got dismissed, then the judge kind of like retired, and then they appealed it and it went up to a higher court, and stuff's been going on like that, okay? So the long and short of it is there are still parts to this case that have yet to be determined. The case perhaps was dismissed with prejudice, but girl, it's wide open, as y'all just saw. It's an active case. The next hearing is in July 8th. So without further ado, let's look into what the patient's mother has alleged against these people. And it's not pretty. So here's the complaint. This is the verified complaint filed August 16th, 2019. Now, I do believe it has been amended once, maybe twice, but this is the original complaint, okay? So Esther is the mother of Mona. Mona is the name of the patient who did pass away in these people's care. So Esther is the mom. Mona is the daughter. Mona, unfortunately, is no longer with us as of 2019, RIP. And Esther, Mona's mom, does blame Owen and his wife. Owen and his wife are on sulfide underbelly trying to harvest more patients. Okay. So Mona passed away September 26, 2016. I highlighted this because look at the date that they say that this patient, Mona, passed away. She passed away September 26, 2016. Who are the defendants? Owen and his wife, Carlene, and their company, Brooklyn Minds Psychiatry. Okay. And Brooklyn Minds Psychiatry was treating Mona at the time of her death. Well, she died September 26th, 2016. Look at this. What you are looking at here is the Department of State Corporations Division of New York. Now, this is where Brooklyn Minds Psychiatry was founded. And would you look at the date of the first filing? It was September 20th, 2016. 6 days before Mona died. The company was only operating for 6 days before the patient died. Okay. But yeah, it does say that it is Owen Scott Muir, who is the agent for service of process. Okay. So that I found to be very interesting, that a patient actually died within the first week that the company was formed. Okay. The first filing was September 20th. Mona was dead by the 26th. That's very strange to me. I mean, you don't have a good track record if you just open the business. Now, what I will say is that company has changed its name, and I don't have to venture to wager why they would have changed their name, because now when you go to brooklynmines.com, it's not even called that anymore, girl. It's called something else. And Owen and Carlotta, or whatever her name is, they're not even on the website under the "Who are we? We are the team." Let me just show you all that. So when you go to brooklynmines.com, this is what you see. Curated mental health, previously known as Brooklyn Minds. Now, a new standard in mental health care, looking like, a ARA website, basically not that much different. Our services, all that. Meet our team. I'm expecting to see Owen and Carletta, or whatever her name is. I don't see them though. Look, we got Taylor, Patricia, Sandra, Austin, Melissa, Catherine. Where are the owners of this company? I don't know. Let me go actually let me look at the corporations division of Curated Mental Health, who owns it. No businesses were found. Let me see on open corporates. Nothing was found. Does this company exist? Curated, MH, Curated in New York. Nothing. Let me search for Owen Muir. I don't see anything about Curated, y'all. I can't even find this company as existing. What is Curated Mental Health? Like, oh my God. It's a KETAMINE clinic, psychedelic assisted psychotherapy. So I don't know if I don't know if Curated Mental Health I'll show you what I'm looking at. Bought Brooklyn Mental Health, or whatever it was called, Brooklyn Minds. Yeah, look, Curated Mental Health, the reader view. Oh God. Okay, so maybe they merged. Curated Mental Health announced they're going to partner with Brooklyn Minds. That's Owen and them's company, along with the Mind Centers Inc. MDMA assisted therapy, once FDA approved, medication management, psychedelic assisted services. Okay, but importantly, this is not what Mark Laita's saying. He's saying that he wants her to do the TMS thing. In that press release, it did quote Dr. Owen Muir, and that was, just from 2022. So maybe in the time since 2022, they're not involved anymore. But if you look up Brooklyn Minds, it still does seem to exist. It still seems to be an active company, and it does seem to be owned by, or at least the agent for service of process is Owen Muir. So, girl, I don't know. I meant for this video to be like 25 minutes long. Here we are. What you gonna do? Okay, so let's look at the complaint made against these two people. And again, these two people are people that Mark does want to treat Rebecca with a $50,000 treatment. Okay, so Mona passed away the 26th, like I said, only 6 days after the Brooklyn Minds company was formed. Now it seems to have kind of changed its name, merged into a different company. That's very interesting to me. Doesn't even mention Owen and Carlotta on the website right now. Very interesting to me. Okay, Mona became unalive by this method at her apartment approximately 2 hours after she was discharged from the ER. The last 4 phone calls made by the decedent were to Owen Muir. And then it says, the mother is bringing this action because she's the administrator of the estate. At all relevant times, Owen is a medical doctor. He says his superpower is getting people to open up about things they never talked about. That sounds Scientologistic to me. Did he have an e-meter, girl? I don't know. I'm wondering. Dr. Muir also hosts a podcast called Self-Disclosure. It's giving Jody Hildebrandt, if you ask me, where he purports to talk about, quote, reducing the stigma around mental health through frank, revelatory, and difficult conversations with health professionals. So did I check out this podcast? No, I did not. I think it's going to be a rabbit hole, so I left it alone. Owner, sole proprietor of this Brooklyn Minds. Okay. I'm not going to read everything. I just have some stuff that is, highlighted. Defendants Muir and Macmillan, the husband and wife team, the ones that Mark wants to treat Rebecca for the $50,000 treatment or whatever, they treated the decedent for approximately a year. So since about 2015, they had started treating her, billing her parents as much as $20,000 a month for their services. The defendant Brooklyn Minds website somewhat proudly declares they do not accept insurance except for one service. Now, I did poke around their website just a little bit to try and see if I could substantiate that, and I could not. I went to the Wayback Machine to see if maybe they had changed the website, but there was no previous archive of it, which I did archive every single page, so at least there's an archive now. But in this lawsuit, it does say that the Brooklyn Mines website somewhat proudly declares they do not accept insurance except for one service. Mona had suffered profound depression. In the year leading up to her death, she had experienced a little bit of a renaissance. She was starting to get a little bit more into things and stuff like that. But during the course of her treatment with this husband and wife team, the defendants and Brooklyn Mines, Mona, the decedent, experienced a sharp downturn in her progress, fighting the debilitating illness and her parents, including her mother, and they were all perplexed as to why. They were constantly assured by these defendants and all the, employees and everything that Mona was progressing, and that sometimes it is normal to have a setback before you fully advance. Following Mona's tragic death, plaintiff, that's the mom, the decedent's mother, uncovered a macabre tapestry of grotesque machinations that went far beyond routine negligence or derelict absent-mindedness or even gross negligence. When cumulatively considered, the documented events uncovered by plaintiff reveal unequivocally that these defendants, these doctors, and their company Brooklyn Mines purposefully, quote, aided, abetted, coerced, cajoled, taunted, triggered, and otherwise ultimately convinced and caused Mona to take away her own life. In short, they did everything but slip the news. Again, there's a public lawsuit. I didn't even pay for it. Y'all can go and type it in and read it yourself. I'm not reading everything. Both defendants wholeheartedly adopted their own mission statement and sending thousands of texts to Mona over the course of their year-long treatment of her, despite the obvious, immediately apparent problem of those mediums' limited ability to deliver and convey accurate communication. The text messages between these doctors and their patient, who's now dead, include, according to the mother, range from stunningly glib to astoundingly, jaw-droppingly unprofessional, such as when defendant Muir regaled Mona with stories of him being diagnosed as bipolar. Defendant Macmillan, the wife, spoke to Mona about her borderline personality disorder. Owen Muir's dependence on Zyprexa, which is a medication used to treat, among other things, schizophrenia. Her doctor talked to her about her other doctors' issues and about their marriage issues. Like, the point that the plaintiff, the mother, is trying to make here is that these people were completely unprofessional. They were married to each other and they were bringing their patients in not only to their personal marriage issues, but also their medications and their own shortcomings and their own mental health issues that they personally deal with, which isn't particularly a shortcoming, but it absolutely is a shortcoming to discuss this with a patient if that is true, if these allegations are true. Now, I feel like we've already kind of caught Owen in a little bit of a misleading at best, dishonest at worst moment, because he's still out here on the Substack talking about it's been dismissed with prejudice and it can't be filed again. Well, baby, you're still fighting it in the courts. So it's giving misleading. It's giving not a credible person to take the word of, in my opinion. I mean, he's out here saying that it's been dismissed with prejudice. He hasn't updated that article. It's still out there, that blog post. Other things that the doctor allegedly spoke to her patient about is that she was in a, quote, terribly boring relationship with the husband, who was, again, Mona's other doctor. And then Owen apparently shared with his patient that he and his wife were, quote, freaks, quote, total freaks. He shared with Mona about one of his friends having pictures of, quote, high on meth gay sex. Now, I guess those pictures could have come from any one of his friends, but it did just make me wonder who has access to a lot of S workers who are on METH.
Do I tell you what meth makes me do for some reason?
What?
I was just wondering. I don't know who it could be. I don't know who this friend could be. But it's very interesting that that was mentioned in this lawsuit all the way back in 2019. Otherwise, this Dr. Owen unhelpfully advised Mona to, quote, let her freak flag fly. That's a quote. I don't know. And they also kind of like maybe admitted that they were not competent to have actually provided the services that they billed the decedent hundreds of thousands of dollars for. So over the course of all this, it apparently cost hundreds of thousands. Owen Muir, in a jarring, cloying, tone-deaf email to Mona's parents after Mona had died, was that Mona was, quote, his greatest teacher and, quote, the most complex, infuriating, lovable person I've yet met, which sounds alarmingly similar to how Amanda was described by Lima and Mark. You're really difficult to deal with, Amanda. Nobody wants to deal with you. Basically, I wanted to prove that nobody was a lost cause. There's no such thing as an impossible case. Nobody is a lost cause. That's how they talked about Amanda. So it just kind of sounds kind of similar here. Owen apparently said that Mona was purportedly such a complex case that she was beyond the diagnosis capabilities of modern mental health sciences. He alternatively had classified her as having borderline personality disorder, but he later admitted that this was only done for insurance billing purposes. And in fact, Mona did not have borderline personality disorder. Well, this also sounds very similar to some of Lima's patients, including Amanda Rabb and her two sisters, Dahlia and Diadema. Dahlia, Diadema, and Amanda all were allegedly schizophrenic until they weren't. Actually, she didn't have schizophrenia. She was misdiagnosed. My sisters were misdiagnosed for 3 years. They did not have schizophrenia. Well, then whenever she needed to sue me and say it under penalty of perjury, all of a sudden they had schizophrenia again. I really don't know. She needs to figure out which story it is, but it kind of looks like the same thing that was happening here. They said she had borderline personality disorder, but then in fact later they would say, no, she didn't. Interesting. Now, it also says that one of the doctors was taking Zyprexa, a medication used to treat mental disorders, including schizophrenia. That in and of itself isn't the problem, Mona's mother says. She says the fact that this was shared with Mona, and the fact that it was shared with Mona that one of her doctors struggled with a, quote, need for alcohol. He was prone to bouts of anger, paroxysms of extreme rage and vitriol, which frightened and otherwise deeply shook and terrorized Mona, his patient, and which in any event have no place in any relationship between a mental health provider and a patient, were the paramount cornerstone of this invalid's sense of trust and safety. Okay. June, this is a few months before she died. She died in September, 3 months before she died. After a one-on-one session with Muir, Owen, Mona posted online on her Tumblr account that she had been in dire fear of being physically assaulted by her doctor, Dr. Owen Muir, the one that Mark is trying to send Rebecca to. She posted this allegedly on Tumblr. She was scared that she was going to be physically assaulted by this doctor. He blew up at her, apparently, allegedly, and threatened to attack her physically, resulting in her locking herself in the bathroom of his office out of fear for her life and limb. The defendant, Owen Muir, led Mona to believe that he had called the police. In fact, he had instructed his wife, Carlotta, to call the police, who then transported Mona to Bellevue Hospital, which Owen, defendant, knew was one of Mona's greatest self-admitted fears, being locked up in a mental hospital, and specifically being locked up in Bellevue, an event that Mona's parents had spent enormous amounts of money to attempt to prevent from ever happening. Okay, so Mona goes to these doctors and tells them in the course of a patient relationship that she is scared for someone to call the police on her and to be locked up in a mental facility. And in particular, she was specifically scared to get locked up in the Bellevue Center. Well, one day during a session, Owen allegedly did instruct his wife, Carlotta, who was also Mona's doctor, to call the police and specifically to send her to Bellevue, knowing it was one of her greatest fears. Owen had previously sent her there, and upon information and belief, lorded it over Mona that he could keep her there as long as he wanted, as punishment and as a way to subjugate and demean Mona and otherwise establish his dominance over her. Well, this sounds very familiar to what they did to Kanye West. Remember, Harley Pasternak was like, it's off to Zombieland with you. This is how these abusers do operate. I'm not saying Owen did do this, but we have seen this type of allegation before. Also, Britney Spears, when she said no to a dance move, they locked her up against her will, and she says it was like she's never been the same since. Also, Owen did not tell the parents about this incident. Now, they never do tell us how old Mona is. Like, if she's older than 18, I don't really know what their business is in it, but they did say that. Mona repeatedly complained about this and other outrageous and extremely frightening and dangerous misbehaviors of Muir to his wife, but it was ignored. So Mona was complaining to the female doctor, the wife. She was saying, I have issues with this outrageous and extremely frightening and dangerous behavior. But the wife, Carlotta, ignored Mona. Actually, she demeaned and belittled Mona over it. She patronized Mona, deflected her concerns, except when Macmillan, in violation of all precepts of psychiatrist-patient relationship, would confide in Mona about her marriage, its ups and downs, an alleged affair that she had had, and her fears and concerns about Owen's explosive personality. Okay. So basically, the wife would gaslight Mona and be like, no, nothing's wrong with him, until or unless she wanted to complain about her marriage problems. And then all of a sudden she understood what the issues were with Owen, and then she would share them with this patient, which it's all alleged. I wasn't there. I don't know. Mona also said to Dr. Carlotta, the woman, that Owen told her that he would leave her in Bellevue to rot if she didn't leave the bathroom. The police would come and he wouldn't call to get me out of the hospital. And basically Macmillan gaslit her and said, I know it's difficult for you. He said, leave you there to rot. I'm pretty sure your mom might have said that. Kind of gaslighting or whatever. So the parents never uttered such a phrase. They actually refinanced their home and borrowed money, all in order to make sure that Mona would receive the best possible treatment and that she would never be left in Bellevue, even for one night. Now, here's another similarity to Lima. It says, upon information and belief, these two defendants, Owen and Carlotta, they orchestrated a scheme to bilk decedent's parents for exorbitant medical bills, coerced Mona to sign voluntary health care proxies, naming each of them her healthcare agent under threat of sending her to Bellevue Hospital, and otherwise engaged in a concerted effort to estrange Mona from any person who could or would objectively question their unheard of practices, especially her mother. In addition, these defendants attempted to and did continue to estrange Mona from her younger brother, and all of this happened while they were trying to ensure that their cash cow, which was treating Mona, that was the cash cow, would continue to give milk. Okay, ding, ding, ding. Voluntary healthcare proxies? Guess who had a healthcare proxy over Bam Margera? Ding, ding, ding. Lima, Takali, Mora, April, Omar, Tikali, Takwali, Yevremovich, Mora, whatever her damn last name is. Today, Lima had healthcare proxy over Bam Margera. And in fact, they even went so far as to call her his healthcare guardian. So what is the deal with these healthcare proxies? That's frightening. This allegation, if true, is frightening. Mona's mother, Mona's dead. Her surviving mother says these people threatened her to send her to her worst fear, one of her worst fears, unless she signed this voluntary healthcare proxy. So she did so. What are these people so obsessed with getting healthcare proxies over people? If Rebecca goes into these people's treatment care facility plan, I don't know what they're doing over there, the TMS. Is Rebecca going to have to sign over a healthcare proxy to these people? I'm very curious. They continued to engage in this effort to estrange the parent from the daughter. In a concerted and orchestrated scheme upon information and belief, Muir and Macmillan manipulated Mona, encouraging the estrangement from her parents, especially her mother, and they spoke badly of her. They encouraged Mona to cancel dinners and lunches with her brother, which she did, by claiming that it interfered with her treatment. At various times, okay. So then on the next page, it says, it gets into these explosive anger issues that this guy Owen apparently allegedly had. He had an explosive incident and Mona texted him afterward. Her doctor, she texts him and she says, look, you got really angry and it was scary. You pretty much lost it. I don't think I can do this anymore. And then Owen replied, well, it's something to discuss. Hope you have a great day. On June 8th, 2016, 3 months before Mona passed, she texted Owen to tell him, I feel I can no longer trust you. I'm not working with you. You are scummy. On the next day, she texted him again to tell him, I don't feel like I can see you again because you're dishonest. Mona advised the wife, the other doctor who was treating her, of her uneasiness with Owen and said that she wanted not to be alive. I want to not be alive and I hate Dr. Muir. In response to this alarming statement and direct expression of intent that Mona wished to delete, the response from the doctor was, we'll see you tomorrow. On another occasion, when Mona told defendant, I kind of don't want to be in therapy anymore. I feel so hopeless. I want to be DEAD. The doctor responded, I'm at a thing now. We can touch base later. On another occasion, just a couple weeks before she would ultimately pass away, and after another one-on-one session with Owen, which devolved into another episode of Owen becoming or threatening to become violent, as against Mona, it says Owen, Dr. Muir, called the NYPD purportedly because Mona had become, quote, extremely angry while on the phone with the NYPD. According to Dr. Muir's own notes, Mona had shouted that he, quote, you beep me, he me. Okay, well, this sounds very similar to some allegations that Dahlia Takali had made, that her mother, Lima's mother, sent men to R-word her.
I just want her to go to jail.
Okay.
Okay.
I've been asking for that for 2.5 years.
Oh.
And then she broke that door trying to come in and kill me. She has all of her devices set up. To me, this place is like set up like a production house. It's the freakiest thing ever.
Okay.
She literally just lives to just kill me, resurrect me, kill me, resurrect me a million times, send rapists after me.
And in fact, in their own self-admission, Dahlia has been R-worded in a signed declaration under penalty of perjury, girl. They say that Dahlia has been R-worded. Everybody agrees she's been R-worded. So here we have a patient of one of Mark Laita's associates making these same allegations. She becomes angry. She becomes upset. She becomes overwhelmed. And he calls the cops on her. While he's on the phone with the cops, NYPD, here's Mona going, he R-worded me. He R-worded me about her own doctor. Girl, none of these people decided to tell Mona's parents about this quite serious and troubling allegation. They also did not tell the parents about the 911 call made at all, during which Mona had screamed this out. Instead, they emailed the parents in an obvious attempt to get ahead of the story to say that Mona started taking out all her anger and frustration on Dr. Muir and has become pretty irrational about it. She's irrational. Maybe she is, but you know who else irrationally claimed something very similar against her own father? Amanda Rabb, and she's dead too. She died. She died in another one of Mark's associates' care. Lima Yevrimovich. Now, does Lima Yevrimovich know these people? Girl, I don't know. I don't know if she knows them. I'm not even saying she has anything to do with this specifically, but other than the fact that she does have something to do with it. Because what she has to do with it is that she also tried to, or wanted to, treat Rebecca. She might have actually treated her. I'm going to put the clip in here. I'll let her speak for herself, but y'all can see.
It's a shame because you're helping people like Chris, the schizophrenic young man that I interviewed.
Yeah.
And whether you want to find somebody else from my channel that you wanted to help, Rebecca would be a good.
Yeah, Rebecca has a very close place in my heart, and I think.
And Bam Margera as well.
Yeah.
One point worrying he was going to chase her home and attack her. Obviously, that's not something that would ever happen. Well, it's not obvious to me. I don't know. I don't know any of these people. According to this husband and wife team, Mona was a truthful and forthcoming patient who had no indicia of making any false allegations. Following this visit, and 15 days after her accusation of R-word by Owen Muir, Mona was no longer alive. Text message exchanges following this visit between Muir and Mona showed that Muir denied the claim and his wife simply minimized the allegation, advising Mona to calm down. Following this visit, Mona left a negative Yelp review about defendants and Brooklyn Mines and her experiences of threat. After this incident, defendants Muir and Macmillan repeatedly pestered Mona's parents to persuade her to take down her Yelp review on their practice and for her parents to leave them a positive review on Yelp instead. On September 23rd, 2016, so this is 3 days before Mona was no longer with us, Mona advised Carlotta, the female, the wife doctor, that she had set up her own becoming unalive, but the attempt had failed. Okay, I'm not going to get into those details, but she did indicate that she had planned to attempt to do it again. Carlotta, the lady doctor, responded that Mona should go to the ER. When Mona declined, the doctor told her simply, quote, "Then be safe." Defendant Macmillan, which is the wife, upon information and belief, advised Mona not to tell any ER staff member about her failed attempt. I don't know why she would tell her not to tell them. Maybe she didn't want herself to look bad or her practice, or maybe she didn't want the word to get back to the parents. I really don't know. Also, don't know if this is true. Maybe this is not true. I don't know. There's a lot of more interesting stuff, but I'm not going to get into it. Let's move down a few pages. So down here, it's just reiterating that both of these doctors apparently allegedly had admitted and known and acknowledged that one of Mona's greatest fears was being confined to the emergency department room by these two people. And threats that if she didn't stop calling, she would not get to leave the hospital. So they're basically saying, like, leave us alone or you're going to stay in there for more days, which is what Britney Spears described happening to her at the Bridges to Recovery Center, which is in the same neighborhood as P. Diddy's California house, but that's neither here nor there. And then it goes on to say that basically they intentionally had triggered Mona to do this. So she was dropped off at this hospital, but she's let go. And it says approximately 1 hour after being dropped off at her apartment. Her parents also didn't know about all the situation that was going on, apparently, allegedly, according to them. So an hour after she was dropped off at her apartment, following her early discharge from the hospital, and after one final call with Owen Muir, Mona became unalive. These two doctors never told the parents that Mona ever made any of these attempts. Following her death, both of the defendants, Muir and Macmillan, husband and wife, repeatedly acknowledged and conceded their culpability for and the causation of Mona's DEATH to each of her parents. So after she died, they did start talking to the parents. And they basically said, yeah, no, we really didn't know what we were doing. She was hard to handle. Following Mona's passing, the defendants engaged in an orchestrated scheme to attempt to cover up, justify, explain away, and otherwise shield themselves from potential civil or criminal liabilities. In their myriad of incompetencies, malpractices, and macabre misbehaviors with respect to their treatment of Mona. And then they give some examples. A, they deleted existing patient files on Mona. They reconstructed files from whole cloth that never existed. They changed or otherwise falsified Mona's existing and maintained medical records by way of example. So they give an example of how they changed Mona's medical records. And here's one example. After Mona died, Dr. Muir, Owen, went into her case file in her medical history after her death and wrote in there a note that Mona's mom, the plaintiff in this case, the one suing, was diagnosed with severe borderline personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder. And then this lawsuit says, this is categorically false. This woman's like, I've never been diagnosed with that crap. While before her death in the family history section, it just said none. So before she died, it said none in the family history section. After she died, after Mona died, the doctor, this is according to these lawsuit allegations. According to these lawsuit allegations, after Mona passed away, after the patient passed away, Owen went back into the family mental health history and he had written none under family mental health history. Well, he updated it to read, oh yeah, this mother's a narcissist and has severe borderline personality disorder. And it kind of does work to discredit. I have another video coming out, it might have already came out, about specifically the same thing where it's like, if you can make somebody, woman, man, anybody seem crazy, then they seem less credible in court. They seem less credible if they try and sue you. So if this is true, it is very suspicious. Why did he update the patient file on the family history after she died? Again, I don't know if it's true. I need to see more evidence. In an attempt to explain away his and his wife's overt attempts to distance and estrange Mona from her parents. And then they go on to give more evidence of this alleged attempt or this scheme to cover up their actions. The more evidence is they ransacked Mona's apartment following her death. They went through their patient's apartment, and prior to the discovery of her body, they removed files and personal writings and journals that further incriminated them. Whoa, is this true? I don't know why this woman would lie, but she's claiming, the mother of the decedent is claiming that these doctors ransacked Mona's apartment after she died prior to the discovery of her body. So they thought she was still alive and they stole it from her, and then they just started their business 6 days ago. Before Mona's body had even arrived to the cemetery for her funeral, these defendants were agitating that all of Mona's journals and laptop were to be given to them, claiming that these were Mona's wishes. This alleged precatory wish was repeated several times by these defendants to several of Mona's family members. So they were trying to get her journals in her computer. They're trying to get them and saying, oh, that was Mona's final wishes for us to have it. Okay. Then the mom says these people also had an incredibly inappropriate relationship with Mona that went far beyond any generally acceptable boundaries between psychiatrists and their patients. How? They would become enraged and violent or threatening toward Mona. They established a subjugating and demeaning hierarchical relationship with Mona. They ignored purposefully each of Mona's known triggers and instead actively taunted and egged on Mona, including being made fun of, ignored, threatened, restrained, and treated like a hopeless case. There's no such thing as an impossible case. Okay, girl. And then Owen failed to remove himself as her treating psychiatrist after she repeatedly advised him she didn't trust him and she no longer felt safe to work with him. Another example was allegedly being complicit in his wife's directive to Mona that she had to hide and not disclose the failed attempt to any medical staff. They allegedly alienated Mona from her parents, who were her only support system, failed to inform the NYU medical staff that she had an extensive prior history of ideation and attempts prior to that admittance, authorized an early discharge, even though it wasn't the good and acceptable medical protocols. They failed to advise any member of any hospital staff about her severity of her situation, failed to prevent her unaliving, in fact, overtly triggering her on purpose and telling her to do her grounding exercises. Well, this reminds me of Dr. Buzz Mingan's havening. He worked with Tana Mojo. He worked with Hailey Bieber, Justin Bieber. And guess what? He was Aura's medical director who worked with Amanda. So they're doing these havening and these grounding exercises. I don't know if these people are related to each other. I don't know if they know each other, but it's just patterns I notice. So again, this lawsuit is full of interesting stuff. We're not going to get into all of it. I just wanted to highlight a few little things. Okay. So I did want to come and make this video for y'all and tell y'all what is out there in the public record record, a very small amount out there in the public record. There's all kinds of rabbit holes, things we could go down. We could get into the TMS of it all. We could get into the medications of it all. We could get into all of this. But I just wanted to read to y'all the allegations in the initial complaint against these people. I wanted to clarify the misleading public record that this lawsuit has been dismissed because it was dismissed with prejudice and it's fine. No, girl, it might have been dismissed with prejudice, but to implicate that that was the final decision on the matter was false and misleading. So no, it's got another court date coming up in July where they're going to make oral arguments. And if even half of the stuff that's alleged in this lawsuit is true, I sincerely hope that Mona and her parents get some justice for what they all went through. I am not saying that this treatment can't or couldn't or won't possibly help Rebecca. I think if Rebecca's down, if Rebecca is truly consenting, Rebecca should do what Rebecca wants to do. I'm not even saying that I would necessarily not do this TMS therapy, but what I can promise you, based on these allegations and based on Owen's own written words of how he has described what's going on with this lawsuit, I wouldn't trust him as my personal medical doctor, and I certainly wouldn't trust Carlotta either, because it seems like they don't really have a very good ability to keep their personal and their professional lives separate. Now, I don't know what they said in that deranged video. It could have been a great, wonderful video 4 months ago. Y'all can go watch it yourself. That really, honestly, this video is so much longer than I expected it to be. I didn't want it to be this long, but I did find it to be a very important issue, a matter of public concern. This is a highly public YouTube channel. And like I said, someone who was a subject on this channel has already lost her life. Someone who is a subject on this channel, Amanda Rabb, has lost her life during and while under the treatment of one of Mark Laita's associates, Lima Yevrimovich, Ara. This couple, who Mark Laita is trying to turn over another one of his subjects to, Rebecca, who also was apparently allegedly already offered to Lima, according to her own words. This new couple, they have allegations facing of their own, and a patient has also died in their care already. A patient in her 20s or maybe possibly early 30s. Okay, so do with that information what you will. If it's me, I'm not getting TMS or any type of therapy from these people. It doesn't seem like they have a good reputation. Seems like some of the allegations, in my opinion, are believable, but again, innocent till proven guilty. We should not consider any of this stuff to be true or factual until we actually do see the evidence. And I reserve the right to change my mind, and I absolutely would change my mind if I saw evidence to the contrary. I would like to see how Owen and his wife are going to respond to these allegations, because so far their whole response to these allegations have all seemed to deal with the statutes of limitations. Some of those issues have now been turned back, and he can't use that argument. They can't use that argument anymore. So let's see how it all shakes out. I'm not sure I'll be following this case. If y'all really want me to, if y'all want me to keep up with the case, comment down below if you're really interested. I could leave it or take it. I did want to make this public service announcement based on public records on an issue of public concern, which is mental health, transgender issues, psychiatry, novel and new therapies, etc. People have died. I think that's a pretty interesting and important public interest concern. That's all I really had for today. In the meantime, facts ain't defamation. Neither is reading from a lawsuit and a Yelp review, girl. Love you, Mina. Okay, bye. Welcome into my world. You're playing my game. Thought that you could come up and they're fitting off of my knee. Talking out the side of your neck like you're insane. Cortisol levels to the roof. Kids these days so shameless, selling out real friends for a paycheck. Mama didn't teach them no home training. Wanna be me so bad, but they failing. Step to the plate though, I'll take a challenger. I ain't scared of no low life scavenger. I should warn you though, if you haven't heard, I ain't no Colleen ukulele balancer. Shots been fired. Wanna tell that? Say it to my face though. Now behind my back, won't be long till you share it in the group chat. And when I call you up, you're gonna backtrack. And you should've kept my name out your mouth. That's Devo, how it all turned